everyone, Ramey here, and today what I want to do is I want to talk about my 2019 security recommendations for your computer to keep your privacy safe, to keep your data safe, to make sure people aren't spying on you, your internet service provider isn't getting your data and selling it, and all that interesting kind of stuff. I do this every year. I've done this the last several years where I've talked about my security recommendations for the year. And they haven't changed too much this year, but there are some changes. So let's kind of talk through that and just talk about different updates because, you know, different things have happened in privacy. So I want to kind of just talk about some few. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about various technologies, how to keep your data secure on them, and some of the software that I recommend for this year. So first of all, let's start with browser. I recommend a few browsers for a few different things. So first of all, in general, whatever browser you are using, make sure you're set to private mode. What that does is it just helps keep like certain trackers from tracking you while you are browsing the web. But it doesn't really do that much. It's really not privacy mode per se. It doesn't really keep your data private. So let's talk about how to do that. So the first thing I recommend is that my recommendation for a browser is hands down Firefox. Firefox is open source. And the people that developed the most secure browser, which I'm going to talk about next, based it off of Firefox's code. So I think Firefox community really does a lot to make sure that they are very secure. So I really like Firefox. Come in a close second would be Chrome, and I wouldn't use any other browser besides those ones. All right. So definitely Firefox is my number one choice. Now, if I were to say, okay, I'm using Firefox or I'm using Chrome, how do I actually make myself private? So the first thing I do whenever I install either of those browsers is I download an extension called uBlock Origin. I really, really like uBlock Origin. And what it does is it actually first of all, it'll prevent ads. So like if you go to YouTube or anything, there's not going to be any ads anymore, Facebook or whatever. It's good because it gets rid of all things that track you on the web, but it still doesn't make you private, but it's a good start for your browser. So let's say you're on your browser and you want to be really, really private. So the most private browser out there is something called Tor, T-O-R, the Tor browser. And Tor browser was originally developed by the Department of Defense. But it's now really just a browser based off of Firefox's code developed by the Tor group, the Tor project. And that if you're using that browser to search or do anything, no one's tracking you. Your internet service provider can't see what you're doing. They can just see that you're using Tor browser, but they can't actually see what you're doing in the browser. Police use this browser. Military uses this browser. Researchers, like people, you know, when they're researching like cigarette industry, you don't want anyone to know that. They use Tor browser. Reporters will use Tor browser. And unfortunately, criminals use Tor browser because Tor browser is where you can access all the things on the dark web. So it's the secure browser. The problem with Tor browser is it's slow. It's much slower than a normal internet browser. And a lot of like standard websites like Facebook and stuff don't really work well on it. They're really slow or they just don't work at all. So it's not really a convenient browser to use all the time. It's convenient when you're trying to search something that you don't want other people to know about. And there is another option to do that, which I'm going to talk about in a second, to keep yourself secure while browsing. But just hold up. Let's get to mobile first. Okay, so that's for the PC or Mac. So I prefer Firefox. Next would be Chrome. I always install uBlock Origin on them, whatever one I'm using. If I need to go super secure, I'll use Tor. All right, next, mobile browser. So for mobile, there's one browser out there that I just love. I think that this is probably one of the coolest browsers I've ever seen. It's called Firefox Focus. It's not the Firefox browser. It's called Firefox Focus. I love this browser so much. It doesn't track you. Now obviously your ISP or your internet service provider can still see what you're doing, but your data is not stored on your phone while you're using this browser. Every time you close the browser, your history and all the stuff was wiped. You can push the little trash can and wipe everything. It blocks all trackers. it's so simple. The great thing about the browser is it's so simple that it's faster than all other mobile web browsers. I love Firefox Focus. My next favorite browser for the phone is Firefox, which isn't as secure. But I just love Firefox Focus. And if I need to be really, really secure, there are versions of Tor Browser for mobile devices, whether you're on Android or Apple. There are versions you can download and use, but they're really super slow and kind of clunky. I really just like using Firefox Focus. Now, let's say I do like that. Let's say I need to be private. And I don't want my internet service provider seeing my data because, they can sell it. And let's say I'm on public Wi-Fi. If you're on public Wi-Fi, you're at a hotel, you're at a Starbucks, a McDonald's, whatever, you're using their Wi-Fi, you have to protect yourself. So what I recommend is that you have a VPN. VPN is a virtual private network. It basically, so for those that don't know what a VPN is, it hides you. So when let's say you're home and you're using a VPN, and you're searching things on the web, you're using your regular Firefox or Safari or whatever you're using, and you have your VPN on, no one can see what you're doing. So the great thing about the VPN is your internet service provider just sees users using VPN. We can't see anything. Now, obviously, whoever owns the VPN can see your data, but you're paying them to hide it and not look at it. So hopefully you have a VPN provider that's not looking at it. Also, if you're doing anything like, I hear people and I wouldn't recommend doing this, but if you're watching like movies and stuff that aren't yours or doing anything like that, if you're not using VPN, you're probably going to get in a lot of trouble. So criminal acts, they will use things like VPN to hide themselves. But common people will use it too. Again, like the military, or if you're a researcher or a reporter searching something, use a VPN to hide your tracks so that no one can really see what computer things are happening at. So as far as like what VPN do I like, I used to always recommend CyberGhost, and they're my VPN of choice. That's what I use. I use CyberGhost. And the reason I like them is because they were the highest quality for the cheapest price. They were just as high quality or a little better, but they were so much more money. So CyberGhost was that middle. It had good quality and was on the lower end of expense. I think I actually bought a lifetime subscription for like $80. So what's happened though is a lot of the VPNs have all come down in price, or they are always running sales and deals. And so there's a bunch of good VPNs out there like NordVPN and IPVanish, and there's a bunch of them out there you can buy. And I really personally wouldn't spend more than like $30 to $40 a year on my VPN, but that's about how much they cost. If they're trying to get you to spend more than that, I would go, because there are definitely services that are cheaper, that you can find really good deals for like $30 a year. You can have your VPN. VPN is going to be much, much faster than Tor Browser, and it's going to run on different websites better. And you can also use it on your mobile device too. That's the great thing. So most of the VPNs all work on the mobile. So like I just have one VPN. I can use it on mobile. I can use it on my computer. I can put it on like my Amazon Fire Stick. I can put it anywhere. So I use my VPN all the time. All right, now. Okay, so then next thing we have email. So what about secure email? So email is pretty, if you use like Gmail or something, Google's seeing what you're doing all the time. So there are a few really private email servers out there. My favorite one, definitely the most, easily the most popular. And again, this is used by reporters and the government and police. And unfortunately, it's also used by criminals, but it's called Proton Mail. And Proton Mail is based out of, I believe they're in Switzerland, somewhere in that geographic area, but they are 100% private. You can sign up for them without using your name or any identifying information. And then you have a very private email address that cannot be tracked to you. So I think that email is a great email to have as like, your email account. A lot of people use these emails that are trackable where the company can read what you're doing. So Proton Mail is a really great email. All right. As far as like malware and adware, so if your computer is ever running into like getting slow, I recommend everyone run some kind of malware, adware at least monthly at the minimum. So that's like 12 times a year, like once every few weeks, just run it. I run it every few weeks, like as I remember. Sometimes it'll be every week and sometimes it'll be like once a month. Generally every few weeks I try to run it on my computer. Now like my wife's computer, I have her run it like every few days. I just have it set up automatically to run because she tends to get a lot of malware and adware. I don't know what kind of website she's going on to do that, but she gets it. So I tend to run it every few days. But you know, my recommendation is a company called Malware. It's free to use, so you can just run it for free. And it's probably one of the best ones out there. It takes care of all your spam stuff that's on your computer that companies are installing weird stuff on there. It just gets, so if you notice your computer running like slower, or there's like, it feels like you got a virus or something, run Malware. It'll get rid of it. I do recommend paying for it because they do offer the free version and it's really great. So if you are using it for a while, I totally recommend supporting their company and just paying the money for their upgraded version, because it does allow you the opportunity to schedule and have the full and monitor you full time and just stuff like that. So it is worth buying. But yeah, they have a free version and the free version is great. It's more than what you need. All right, let's go to antivirus. So I'm not, and I can include firewall in here as well. Now that I use Windows Defender, it's what comes with Windows 10. It's on all Windows PC-based computers. I don't really use antivirus or firewalls anymore because Windows Defender does a good enough job for what I need, so I don't have to run them. Now, if you're on a Mac, I would definitely recommend antivirus. And my wife's computer, even though she has Windows Defender, she has I don't know what it is. She can attract viruses. So I do have, in addition to Windows Defender, I have some antivirus software installed on her computer. For hers, I use a program called Avira. It's free and it's really good and stops everything. So it's called Avira, Avira. And I think that it does a good job of stopping everything and just an extra layer on top of Windows Defender for her because she needs it. As far as a firewall, I don't use one of those really anymore because Windows Defender does it automatically and helps me block things. But if I were to use a firewall, it would be Zone Alarm. I think they do a really good job of preventing something from accessing the internet. So what a firewall does is, think of like, you know, if you were like running and there was a wall there, you can't run anymore, right? A wall. It blocks. So the point of the firewall is that it doesn't let any data in and out of your computer without you approving it. So let's say like you have Microsoft Word on your computer and you install Firewall and you realize throughout the day you're not using Microsoft Word, but it keeps trying to access the internet. And you're like, well, why is this happening? You can keep pressing, no, I don't allow you to access the internet. Because sometimes you're like, my internet's going slow and you can't figure out why. And it's because like some weird program is trying to access the internet that you're not even using and you don't know why. So Firewall prevents that from happening. I'm not saying Microsoft Word does that. That was just an example. But those are my overall security recommendations for 2019. I think you should check out, consider, take a look at, start to explore more, and take a look at that software and see what you really like or don't like. And good luck. Hopefully you stay private online. Thank you.